All right. So, Mike, I'm going to introduce Mike this way. I'm going to tell a story about how I met Mike. Unbeknownst to, I'm pretty sure everyone that I was with in May, I was at a summit for Arte, and it was my birthday. And I didn't want to tell anyone that it was my birthday, but when I booked the tickets, I was like, I remember I asked my mom, because I'm Italian, right? And I said, Mom, hey, we have any plans for my birthday this year? And it wasn't like a monumental year. It was 37. So I was like, there's not like a surprise 40th or 35th or whatever. So I said, Ma, hey, listen, are there any plans for my birthday? And she's like, no, not at the moment. I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to be here on my actual birthday. And then I like booked the tickets, and I went out to my first Arte summit, and I was around all these people that, in my opinion, just got it, in the sense of where I've come from and what I've developed. Being newer to the group of Arte, about a year, I really wanted to be around the top echelon of the group. And there's about 2,000 people in the group, and then there's only about 100 people at the summits. And in my perspective, it's probably the top performers of the group, and I wanted to be around them. And I think when I actually met you was when I first got there, when I got in off my flight, but we connected on a morning walk, if I recall correctly,
Yeah.
with our buddies out here from New York. And everybody's doing their 75 hard and walking, and I'm just walking with you. I'm not doing 75 hard, and I'm listening to you. And I'm like, this is probably one of the most humble, down to earth, cool dudes that I've met, not only in this trip, but probably along my entrepreneurial journey. And I was assuming you were an entrepreneur, which you are. And we started going back and forth. And then we started talking about like life and cars and impact and influence. And I was like, wow, I got a lot to learn here. Like, I have no clue who this guy is. And he's super awesome. And he has a lot of experience in a lot of different realms, primarily real estate. And I didn't know at that time of the conversation, but social media and personal branding. And to bring it full circle, I have taken your advice on content and personal branding, and it's exploding. And I took one free hour class that you gave us, and I had my whole team watch it. I have 4 people that do my personal brand, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this guy's awesome," and everything's exploding. But the point that I'm getting at is, I didn't even know that you were younger than me, and by almost a decade. And when I found out you were in your late 20s, I was like, "Holy shit, this dude is a hitter!" Like, he's a decade ahead of me, and I'm a decade older. So, this is what it comes down to. Mike, I got to say, not only am I grateful for you being here, but I'm honored for you to be here. And just interacting with you is a lot of fun, because we continued to interact over the course of those 3 days, and everything was just pure. It was real. It was authentic. It wasn't like bullshit. It wasn't lines. It wasn't like make you feel good. It wasn't blowing smoke up your ass. And Mike Sherrard, dude, you own high converting content and agency, and you're the globally top performing real estate agent in EXP Realty. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, man, it's, incredibly honored for that introduction. It means the world to me. I felt the exact same. That going to that event was absolutely life-changing. And it was so great to just align with people, where I find, when you go to a lot of typical events, everybody's kind of trying to get something from somebody. And you also don't really know where the talent is. So you're kind of sizing everybody up and you don't know what's going on. But that event, it was like everybody's first focus is, what can I pour into? Who can I connect you with? What can I do for you? And because everybody was at a certain level in order to even get there, there was no ego. There was no, boasting or gloating or clout or, vanity. It was all just people that have worked their asses off to get there. and now we're all trying to go to the next level. So it's such a cool community, man. And it was incredible to meet you. And yeah, so I'm the, the co-founder. I created it with my business partner, Ria, high converting content. And then I'm the #1 personal attractor in the history of eXp Realty worldwide within 2 years, which has been pretty wild, all through leveraging content and over delivering on value. And I think that's something that I really, try and make a focal point is, what can I do to just deliver more value for free than anybody else in my space? And everybody else seems to have this mentality of, well, what if I give too much away? Well, what if I give my best secrets? Well, what is my competition going to do? And my perspective is, number one, 90% of people ain't going to do this anyway. And number two, if people see that you're leading with more value, they're going to want to partner with you. They're going to see the value in you. And then it's more attracting versus having to go out and hunt for business. So it's been an absolutely incredible journey, man. And I'm honored to be here.
Yo, I remember I had no clue your impact on social media. You have a very strong YouTube following, you have a very strong Instagram following. You probably have other platforms that I'm not even familiar with that are strong. You're probably heavy on LinkedIn, right? Yeah, right. And probably TikTok as well. But I'm familiar with your Instagram and your YouTube, and I'm just getting into LinkedIn. But the point that I'm getting at is, I didn't know your impact and influence there. And you are, speaking of giving, like finding things to give, you gave everyone that went to the summit about it, I want to say maybe an hour and a half of your time on how to basically develop and scale a YouTube channel. And the interesting part about it was, a focus of mine for this year in my personal brand was to really build the community aspect, and the tribe aspect is the keyword that I like, right? The tribe aspect of my YouTube channel. My podcast tribe has been growing steadily over the years, and I really wanted to basically build on YouTube as well. I never really looked at it like, oh, I want to monetize, I want to make money. I'm like, no, I want another platform to where I can impact and influence people that maybe have questions about their first couple of years as an entrepreneur, or how to make $1 million, or how to make $10 million, or anything along those lines that I made all the fucking mistakes on and have figured out along the way, to be able to offer and give that 100%. Like, yo, what I don't want to hold anything back. Let me give it. But rather than sounding like this is about me, because it's not, Mike, you gave that class and I watched that class. And I was in Europe when you gave that class, and I called my team. I was like, guys, listen, all right, you guys got to watch this. And they're like, yeah. And then after they watched it, they're like, wow, Mike's a really good teacher. And they started implementing everything that you talk, from the thumbnails to the back end SEO to everything that you taught. And the interesting part about it is, I check in with you every so often. I shoot you a little video and I'm like, yo, YouTube's up 300% this month. Not just in subscription, but also in views. And then when we started adding in shorts and what you taught and applied it to shorts, like I think it's like 10,000% this month. We're right on track, like 11 or 12,000% in views because of shorts. And we just applied what you taught. And the cool part is about it, you gave it and you just want to see everyone successful. And I would imagine you wanting to see everyone successful around you has been maybe a tool in your tool belt for the success that you found. Would you say that?
100%, man. There's a quote, it's really funny, where people say, it's lonely at the top. And the reality of it is, it's lonely at the top if you don't bring anybody with you. And that's where, my goal is, sure, I have, the multiple 7-figure year income, and I get to drive cool cars and go to cool places and stuff like that. But, the issue is that that's only cool for like a couple months, until you realize that none of your friends can afford that hotel. None of your friends can afford that trip. And then it's like, who do you go with? Right. And that's one of the things that I've really kind of driven home is, how can I bring all my all my guys and girls with me to live the lifestyle that they've always wanted to, and do it in a fraction of the time by learning from my mistakes. And, seeing what I've been able to do for my family, and how fulfilling that is, and my friends, that's a feeling that I want everybody to get. And I know everybody could do it if they have the right blueprint, and if they have somebody that's willing to pour into them. But so many people approach entrepreneurship in such a selfless or selfish way, that it's more so, okay, I've got the car, I want the next one, or I've got the house, I want a bigger one. And it's always them. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm good. What can I do to help everybody else get there too? So I just constantly try and find ways that I can over deliver, give value, kind of streamline processes, and help people get there in a little bit of time.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And let me ask you this follow-up question. Being someone else who really enjoys bringing people with them, and fundamentally caring about people enough to see them grow, have you ever made any mistakes on choosing who to pour your energy into, and finding out down the road that that you made a mistake fundamentally by choosing that person for whatever reason? But have you ever found yourself in that situation?
100%, way too many times. And, especially with a business model like mine, where you're partnering with people at scale. When you come from a place like you and I do, you want to help everybody. You want to see everybody win. And it's not even that you're giving people the benefit of the doubt. You just are helping everybody with pouring your heart into it, because you wear your heart on your sleeve, and you just say, hey, this person says they want to win. They say they want this life. So I'm going to help them, and I'm going to be the one to do it. And what I quickly realized is that you need to you need to save the people swimming towards the boat, not the ones swimming away from it. And, a concept that I now live by is, I work with the people that have earned my time, not the people that want my time, because everybody wants my time, but very few have earned it. And to give you a really clear example of that, there's an agent in my organization that said, Mike, can we book a private Zoom call? I would like your advice on certain things. And my perspective was, dude, between the training that we've given you, you have everything you need to go close your first deal or get your first agent. You haven't done either. So I sent him a reply back and said, hey man, super grateful that you reached out to me about this. We'll have a meeting once you close your first transaction. 2 weeks later, hits me back up. Mike, I got my first deal under contract. Can we meet? Yes, let's do it. But so what I learned is that in the beginning, everybody says they want to crush it. Everybody says they're driven, they're motivated, they're ambitious, they're willing to put the work in, they're willing to make the sacrifices, they want this big life, they're going to be a rock star. Everybody says that, right? The problem is in the beginning, I believed it. I would text my business partner, oh, Connor, we just brought on this rock star, he's going to crush it. And Connor's like, all right, let's wait and see. Every time he was right. Every time the people that are the most vocal about what they say they're going to do are the ones that are doing that to compensate for what they're actually going to do, versus my top business partners came in, said, all right, I'm going to give this my all. Just wait and see. And they would go silent, and they crushed. So what I had to start doing is auditing where I allocate my time. And it's not that I don't believe people. It's just, I will believe you based on your actions versus your words, because everybody can talk a big game. I want to see it. So now when I'm vetting who to pour my time into, I come in and I make the blanket assumption that every single person's going to do nothing, all of them. And then I wait 30 days to see what they actually do. And then the ones that start to show, they're showing up to the calls, they're asking good questions. I can see they're going through the training in the back end of Kajabi and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, this person's on it. And then I'll pour into them. And when I pour into you, I will do everything for you. But you need to earn my time, because it's limited. As you very well know, scarcity is a real play here. And it's really important to start to audit who you're pouring into, because a lot of people can get consumed in saying, oh, this person's a friend. Oh, they're talking a big game. Oh, they've got a big following. All of these kind of like assumptions versus me. I just sit back and I look at the action, and the action will tell you everything you need to know about where you should allocate your time.
It's funny. It's funny when we learn this lesson in life, right? Yeah. It's almost like an aha moment. You're like, okay, time is our most valuable asset. Mm-hmm. What do I need to do better? And we start learning energy. We start learning pouring in, pulling energy, giving energy, whatever situation it is. And I learned your lesson that you're speaking as an employer when I own gyms, because
Yeah.
it's the same thing, right? Like very similar situation. They come in on a job interview. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you learn uh, typically within 90 days,
Hmm.
you'll understand through action if
Yeah.
someone's going to at least move in the right direction. Like you said, swim towards the boat rather than away, right? Like no one's perfect. Like I know everybody says they want a Lambo and $1 million home. Okay, cool. What are you doing on Sunday morning?
Yeah.
You know, fundamentally, right? That's just one action that we can look at. But, and people can make a lot of mistakes, but if they're constantly trying to move forward and making mistakes, okay, cool. I'll help guide you. But if you're not doing anything, I'm not going to help you.
No,
Go on YouTube.
exactly. Be
Go,
resourceful. And
go,
I
right.
think, that's another concept that drives me fucking crazy is um accountability partners, right? You get this a lot in real estate, Mike. I feel like I need an accountability partner, and this is something that I drive this home with my team a lot, which is why our team is so productive and why they're such hitters. um is because if you feel like you need an accountability partner in business, that means that your goals don't mean enough to you, because that means that you're relying on somebody else that has a different goal, different lifestyle, different trajectory to get you to stay on track with what you know you need to do. Right. And that's a huge problem in entrepreneurship, is feeling like you need an accountability buddy, an accountability partner. Well, that just means the repercussions of your goals aren't important enough. And I actually recorded the video about this. I haven't put it up yet, but it's one of these things where it's like, if the doctor came and told you today that, hey, Mike, you're going to die in 6 months if you don't go to the gym every single day, you're probably going to go to the gym every single day, because the goal of life is so important to you and the repercussion of death is so detrimental that you're going to do it no matter what it takes.
Mhm.
You don't need somebody to wake up and say, hey, you should probably get to the gym because you're going to die.
Yeah.
But the same thing happens in entrepreneurship, is
Mhm.
like, especially in like my industry, real estate, it is such an easy business. There's like 4 different ways that you can get clients, whether it be prospecting, social media, networking, your sphere. There's very little, creativity in terms of how you can go about those. So everybody in this street knows what they need to do. The problem is that they're not doing it because the goals don't mean enough to them, because people are so familiar with letting themselves down and not achieving their goals year over year that the repercussions have become their new norm. Right. So that's what we empower people to do, is creating vision boards, understanding short-term, midterm, long-term, lifetime, afterlife goals, and reverse engineering that into daily activities. Because, if your goals are important enough to you, like nobody needs to wake me up in the morning and say, Mike, you need to go do this. I do this because I know there's lives out there that
It's
I'm
go time,
changing.
baby.
I'm ready to go. All right.
Yeah.
Because like when I went into business, and I've told many people this, my mentality is I'm either going to be worth $100 million or I'm going to be on the street. There's no in
Mhm.
between. Like I'm going full tilt and I'm going to risk it all. But as you start to build momentum, you start to get this confidence in betting on yourself. And once you can get the confidence through little wins on a streak, once you can bet on yourself, you'll have everything you wanted in life, because you'll be able to take calculated risk and know, hey, if this doesn't play out, I'm going to figure it out. But now you can take more kind of bullish approaches to things, because if shit hits the fan, you'll figure it out. But a lot of people think if shit hits the fan, I'm cooked. Right. So I think it's training the mind on how to get to that perspective of where you're allocating your time, how you're spending your energy, what your focus is, your risk adversity, so that you could take these more aggressive approaches, especially now coming into market shifts, coming into, all of these exciting times where people are getting fearful. This is the best time in history to double down and crush and gain
Yeah, buddy.
market share in whatever industry. Right. So I've been
Mhm.
waiting for this time. That's why I'm so excited about it. So it's going to be really interesting.
I want to ask your perspective on something, but I'm going to tell a story to kind of foreshadow it. The perspective is building momentum and harnessing that momentum.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you a foreshadow. One of my students is a financial advisor, and there are probably some similarities to real estate in the sense of like cold calling to a degree, maybe door knocking, cold calling, right? And finally, he landed this huge client, right? Finally. And he calls me and he's like, listen, I'm really grateful for you. Thank you so much. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, don't thank me. You did the work.
Mhm.
You made it happen. Now, what are you going to do next? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go away for the weekend. I got to get ready for this. I got to do that. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, listen, dude, what you just did is fantastic. Okay. Now, this is what you need to do. You need to be doing that daily, if not daily, multiple times a week, if not multiple times a week, at least once a week, bro. Okay. Build that momentum, those hits on a daily or weekly or worst case scenario, monthly basis. Okay. Have a drink if you drink, have a nice meal if you want to eat out, have a drink, have a meal, get back to fucking work. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't go fucking off because you landed a big deal. Great. Get back to work. Would you agree that if you take the mentality of very good, I'm celebrating, I'm grateful, I'm gonna have this meal if that's in the cards, and then getting back to work would help with building the momentum to continually bring in those wins?
Yeah, of course. Like that's what I do as well. And people, say that I don't celebrate enough. And there's probably a lot of truth to that because I'll smash massive goals and then I'll be like, all right, what's next?
What's next? Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where I do exactly that, where it's like, okay, if I actually do something that I consider substantial, like I'll bring one of my best buddies over and we'll either go for a nice meal and have a glass of champagne or a couple of old fashions. And then that's it. Like I wake up at 4 the next day and I'm back to work. Like that's it. And even just to really tell you that, like to drive this point home, like I got a bottle of the Ace of Spades champagne, the gold bottle.
It's good stuff.
And I got that the week before I got my Lamborghini, and I told myself the day I get my Lamborghini, I'm going to open that bottle.
Mm,
I've always dreamed of that moment. Got the Lamborghini, drove it home, back to work, and then
mhm.
I told myself, okay, once I get 1,000 agents in my group, I'm gonna open that bottle, hit
Milestones.
1,000 milestones, hit 1,000 agents, send a screenshot to my business partner. I'm like, where's 2,000? Let's go. And then I was like, okay, once I have $1 million in the bank account, I'm gonna crack that freaking bottle. Got $1 million, and I'm like, all right, I need to add another zero. And then I finally, I was like, you know what, we need to just do this to celebrate and go to the next chapter, because I wasn't doing that enough. And what happens is if you don't do that at all, then you do start to burn out mentally because you have no release, right? You're always entrenched. So I do now exactly what you're alluding to, which is I take a quick little evening off.
Yep.
And then I'm back the next day, because I see all kinds of realtors that do that, or people in entrepreneurship, is they get a big commission check or they make a big sale or deal or whatever their industry is. And then they go to Mexico or then they go to Vegas. I'm like, the worst part is breaking momentum when it's just on the precipice of coming, right? I used to do this. I remember when I got a big listing and I broke a record with it in terms of door knocking. And I got this listing through door knocking, and then I broke a record with the sale of it. And then the next day, the day I got paid on a commission, I went to the print shop and printed out 3,000 more door hangers. I'm like, I only got 1,000 this time. Let's triple down. And that was my mentality, is now that you've got momentum, you need to keep it, because it's like a car, right? And this is what not a lot of people think about, especially like I operate on a 12-week year, which is a quarterly year where I revise my goals and I revamp. I start, like everybody has that momentum January 1st. I
Yeah,
have
you
that
audit.
4 times a year,
So
every
do I.
single year.
I do it too.
And exactly. And the problem is right now, as we're heading into, it'll be October soon, and then November, people wind down.
Gone.
December, people check out.
Gone.
And it's like, if you look at, driving a car down the highway and you're going 100 kilometers an hour, well, if you brake and you go down to 50, the amount of inertia and the amount of energy it takes to get back up to 100 is ridiculous. Whereas if you're going at 100 and you drop to 95 or 90, to get back up to 100 or a bit above, that's not a lot of effort. So you need to be able to maintain that consistency and that momentum, because it's very difficult to build back. And that's the problem, is so many people are dialing the notches back throughout the year that they're almost operating on like a 3/4 of a year, because a quarter of the year is them having to rebuild momentum from their, the weekends are fucking off and the trips they're taking in the middle of nowhere and the golf they're doing all day, every day. Like that's not it if you really want to build it. And again, that's if I tell this to people all the time. If you want to have a low 6-figure income and you want to spend all your time doing whatever you want, great, go do it. Go golf, go take your trips, go do whatever you want. But do not have the audacity to say you want to be a successful, like 7-8 figure entrepreneur, but then you want to have that too. Right now, you can get there, but right now you're not there. So let's start to look at how we can keep that momentum for as long as possible.
I think that's a fantastic explanation, and it's very real. It's raw. It's real raw feedback, because you clearly talk about this often and have been through it. And I'm going to ask you about door knocking.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to tell you a story about a milestone that I hit recently, the reward that I bought for myself and the celebration for it. Okay. So I told myself when I hire another full-time person that finally I haven't bought any cars in a while. I'm gonna get myself a car that's been on my vision board for 4 years. Okay. So yesterday it gets delivered, right? And I'm like, yes, right. It gets delivered, but I'm in the middle of work. So like I take delivery of it. You've probably done things like this. I get back to work, and yesterday I had my first paid speaking gig this year off my book, right? And that was at 7 o'clock at night. So I'm doing my speaking. I get done at 8 o'clock at night, right? And I'm like kind of tired, but I really want to like enjoy the milestone, which was bring in another person, milestone, reward myself. Now I want to celebrate. I took it down the road 3 miles to the local ice cream shop, got a kid size serving of ice cream, got a little cup for my dog. We had our ice cream. We drove back, went to bed, back up at 5 a.m., right back at it today.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people lose the conceptual idea of if you're going to take 2 steps forward, take 2 steps forward the next day and the next day and the next day. Listen, you take a sidestep, it happens. But if you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, every time you take 2 steps forward, where are you really going? You're not really going anywhere. You're kind of just staying static. And
Yeah.
I think that story is probably relatable to things that you've been through. And I know that we've discussed milestones a little bit in the past. And you mentioned to me that I think it was the first time I met you, that did you door knock, like, was it 3,000 doors your first year as a real estate agent?
Yeah, first 6 months, I door knocked for 3 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 months straight. And the first day that I was licensed, I went out and door knocked in -10, in the snow, in the pitch black. First day I was licensed in the evening after my engineering job, and I got 2 listings at $700,000 a pop.
That
And
day, for day one?
that first day, day one. And it's crazy. Like I door knocked to the point where my hand was so frozen that I couldn't write contact information down on my notepad anymore, because my hand, like I was out there for like 3 hours in -10 in a suit, no jacket. So it was cold, man. And I was slipping on people's driveways, landing on my ass, making a fool of myself, papers dropping, like I've been through it all, man. But whether it was rain, snow,
Wow.
hail, heat, I door knocked every day for 6
Wow.
months straight. And again, the concept that I really live by is do the shit that sucks for as short as humanly possible and as quickly as possible, so that you can do the things you enjoy for as long as possible. So my mentality is I could door knock like most maybe realtors that even can fathom doing it. Most agents will maybe door knock 3 days a week for 2 to 3 hours. Well, if I do that, that could take years. Well, if I just condense time, then I'll be able to do it for a shorter period of time in a quick burst, exhaust myself, and never have to do it again. And that's something that I think is really important, is a concept of condensing time. Like, working 16 hours a day, a lot of people think, well, how did you achieve so much in the last 5 years? Well, I've done what the average person does in 10 years in 5, because I work twice as long. I condense time. And so that was my mentality with door knocking is, hey, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go to the max. I'm going to push to the limits. I'm going to do everything it takes, and then I'm never going to have to do it again. But a lot of people like to just dabble with things and not go all in. So then they have to keep doing it for years, and then they hate it. Whereas I'll just get all the sucky stuff done first, and then get to the point where I get to do what I enjoy, which is creating content.
So I probably should have specified this, but the majority of my audience is in the States here. And for I should have mentioned this, but for anybody that doesn't know, you're pretty far north in Canada. Is that incorrect?
Yeah, I'm right above Montana. It's like an 8-hour drive from Montana, but yeah, we get the weather here for sure. -40 is when I did 75 hard.
So you're outside in the winter of Canada in year one, knocking doors, falling on your ass. And
Yep.
and how many years ago was that?
That was in 2017. So that was 5 years ago. I've
Almost
only been
six.
doing this. Yeah, I quit my engineering job in May of 2017. And
Wow.
I just went all in. But I was working part-time. So I got my license February 1st of 2017. And
Mhm.
it was still dark. It was still cold, still winter. And I went out and got to work.
Yeah, man, you got to work. And I'm not the type of person to ask what's next, because you know as well as I, you keep your mouth shut when it comes to those sorts of things. But if I think it's important to touch on two topics. One, when it comes to the real estate industry, I don't know if it's fair to say North America is similar. Like, is put two-part question. Is the Canadian market very much different from the American market? If so, what's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 years in Mike's perspective? Yeah, let's start with that question.
Yeah. So the market is very similar in most places. Like my city has a terrible market because we're tied to oil and gas, and when that tanked, we're like one of the slowest markets in North America. But countrywide, very very similar. What you can do as a realtor is different, but in terms of market itself, it's very very similar. In terms of where things are going to go, I've looked at all kinds of stuff, and to be completely honest, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I do know one thing, and this is all that I really care about anyway, is that I know it's going to be a massive transfer of market share. And I know that when fear starts to set in, when the tabloids and the news and the titles of articles start coming out and everything is going down and sales are down and inventory, all this kind of chaos is happening, people tuck into their shells. People get fearful. You look at 08, 09, 60% of agents didn't renew their license. So where did the clients in the
Wow.
60% go? To the 40% that weathered the storm.
Yeah.
So right now, that's why I went from posting 3 times a week to 7 times a week and now I'm going to be doing it on every single platform, every single day for the next 6 months, because I know that when people zig, I zag. So when people stop spending money on ads and start regressing, I double my ad spend. When people put out less content because they're fearful of the market, I double my cadence and my frequency. And I double down when times like this happen, because I know it's going to be the easiest time to get market share in any industry, because people are fearful, people are emotional, they're not logical. And what they're doing is they're thinking about the what ifs, but not in the right way of what if this doesn't work out? What if it goes here? What if it tanks? And mine is, what if I dominate? What if I
Mm.
take all their market share? What if I crush? Like, I don't even think about the negative, because again, when you can bet on yourself, the negative becomes obsolete, right? Because if shit hits the fan, you're good. You'll figure it out. You always have, right? When you're driven and you're
Oh yeah.
passionate, you stick to the plan and you're
Oh yeah.
consistent. So for me, I look at it from an abundance perspective. A lot of people approach market shifts and everything in a scarcity perspective, right?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
happens with less? What am I going to do with less? I'm
Hmm.
like, how am I going to make more? What am I going to do with this, with
Yeah,
all
I'm,
these
I'm
people?
hiring like wildfire right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. I didn't mean to
So
cut you off. I'm just saying. Yeah,
that's it. I just think it's going to be the greatest opportunity to
it is.
separate and add. Like my goal in the next, that time frame, like, 3 to 5 years, is to add a zero to the net worth. Is what can I do to just completely decimate, the people that are regressing. And I just love this time, because if people have the right perspective and they can weather the storm, they come out the other side a completely different lifestyle. And that's what I want to do for my partners. That's what I want to do with my friends. Is I want to help everybody get through this, and I want to make sure that by the end of it, we can look back and say that was a wild ride, but look at where we are now.
Mike, I think you're the type of dude that adds a comma to your net worth during these times, and that's just my perspective as a humble entrepreneur. But you're a fucking hitter, man. And and you're humble too, right? And that's what's most important. And speaking of humility, I want to mention something that I'm very proud of, but humble about. I addressed my team for our team meeting this month. I think it was like second week of September, something along those lines. I was like, guys, listen, we need to post 7 days a week. Okay. We need to get going. Like, we need to move faster. Now, social media is not, I mean, I'm experienced, but I wouldn't say it's my strongest suit, right?
Yeah.
But I see what's happening. And the interesting part is you own an agency, and you just said that you turned it up from 3 times a week to 7, because I could see it too. Everyone's already beginning to pull back. Doesn't matter where in the tax bracket you fall. Everybody. My buddy, he's a billionaire. I was talking to him on the phone yesterday, and he's getting fucking wiped in the stock market. And he's just like, he's got 600 million in the fucking stock market. And he's talking about, Chris, I'm 75. He's like, it's all me preserving at this point. He's like, you need to be aggressive and acquire everything right now. And I'm like, yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
Of course.
But fundamentally, even the small action of increasing your presence on social media 7 days a week, no matter if you're a real estate agent or a watch dealer or a executive coach or whatever the title is, could you explain that thought that I had that might work, and the strategy that you have? You don't have to give away your secrets. I'm saying, what is the thought process to increase the content creation consistency and regularity for the next 6 months, specifically in the organic style of marketing, like posting, like all of us do, like on Instagram and YouTube? Like, what is the strategy what are we trying to accomplish? Are we just taking more market share, or is there something I don't know?
Yeah, I think it's, it comes down to brand equity, because business used to be who you know, and now it's who knows you. So the goal over the next, couple of years, like I'm even just going to say 6 to 18 months, is how can you get more people to know you? And to me, it's an instantaneous necessity, but it's a delayed gratification outcome. And what I mean by that is, I'm not looking at what can my daily content get me in the next 6 months. I'm looking at what is this going to get me in the next 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. You look at like incredible examples, right? Look at when Andy Frisella started MF CEO Project, what that did for First Form. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to do this to try and get more sales today. It's, I'm going to do this for the next couple of years, knowing that if I build a big enough brand, it's going to explode. Pat Bet David with Valuetainment did this. Everybody's done this play where it's saying, okay, people are getting fearful. They're dialing back. When they dial back, that means there's less competition and less saturation on these platforms, giving you a better opportunity to stand out, a more frequent opportunity to stand out. And it's the ability to, again, exponentially grow your awareness so that whatever your industry you're in, like you're in watches. Well, if the market's shifting and people are starting to either A, offload watches, or B, just keep them and not buy new pieces, well, the goal is over the next 6, 18, 24 months, how can I get as many watch enthusiasts to find out who I am, so that when people start to become less frugal and more, frivolous again, who are they going to look towards to buy their next piece? Me. Right. So the goal is not what am I doing now to get business next month, is what am I doing it now to get business in 2 years. Right. And one of the concepts that's really important is when you're going into these activities is, number one, if you can't do it for a lifetime, don't do it for a day. And number two, you need to remove the time horizon of when you're expecting to see results from the activities that you're doing. Right. So like when I started on YouTube, it wasn't, hey, I'm going to do this for 3 months until I get a client or till I get X subscribers or whatever. It's, I'm going to do this for the rest of my fucking career, because I looked at all these other people in different industries and they were consistent and they got to where they are. So if I'm consistent, I can get to where I am. Right. And I just completely removed the thought process of saying, hey, like people hit me up now and say, Mike, you're almost at 100,000 subscribers. When are you going to hit it? I'm like, I don't know. And I don't care, because I know if I'm consistent, it'll happen. 1 million will happen one day. Could not care less when it's going to happen. But I know that by doing the right activities and improving over time, it will always happen. Right. So a lot of people are looking at the instant gratification metrics as to the KPIs of the activities they're doing, versus just saying, if I'm consistent, the right things will come. Right. So I think that's a mentality people need to have is, number one, the organic engagement on these platforms is only going to be so exponential for so long until the next thing comes out. Everybody's started to regress. So then saturation is lower. So you're pairing less competition with a greater opportunity to leverage organic engagement. And now as people start to get into the industry, because if you look at half of these entrepreneurs' P&Ls, they're going bankrupt. You're going to be the one, if you build the brand equity, that people are going to look to versus who they're currently working with, right? So it's a play of market share, brand equity, and that long-term kind of sustainable approach instead of looking at it of getting clients in the next 2 years.
Well, I was just taken to school. Thank you, Mike. It's interesting how many people say the same thing, just differently. And you say it very, very well. Excellent explanation on that one. And to be honest with you, you've got my gears spinning, right? Because I mean, that's the point. You're a teacher fundamentally. You teach and I teach, and I'm a student and I want to learn everything, but you're providing an immense amount of value right now. And speaking of value, your time is extremely valuable. And I'm going to wrap this up here, but before I go, I'm going to go two things. All right. I'm going to ask you one, I'm going to ask you a question, and then two, I'm going to say, where can everyone find you? Because everyone definitely needs to follow you on whatever platform you put out. But the question that I'm going to ask you is, if you could give one piece of advice, what doesn't matter if it's cliche or not, to a younger entrepreneur that maybe is struggling or maybe is aggressive, right? And they want more and they're working for it. Let's talk to that person. They're working for it. They're aggressive. They're going to go get it. Mike, what would you say to this person?
It's the exact same thing somebody told me that changed my life, which is the man who chases two rabbits catches none. And what happens with these very creative, ambitious, driven entrepreneurs is, like, I'll use myself as a perfect example. Like, I can do YouTube, for example, we'll say that. Well, I could go show people in every single industry. I could put out videos on my YouTube channel about how to do video for car dealers, for financiers, for network marketers, for literally every business. I only do real estate. My skill set applies to every single industry. I only do one thing exceptionally well, as good as I humanly possibly can. So what happened to me in the beginning is I was trying to do it all. I was saying, okay, I could go crush it over here with this skill set. I'm going to go try it. And then I would be like, but I could also do that over there because that skill set also applies. So I'm going to do that too. And what happens is you're such a creative that you start thinking about all these different ways where you can make money and you could crush it. And it could work out, and the opportunity, like, why don't you do it? You're missing out. And what you'll see is that the ones that thrive are the ones that do one thing exceptionally well. And then once it becomes automated and streamlined, they start to do other things on the side and they start to diversify, but they always start with one thing and they crush it, right? It's this myth of the average millionaire has 7 income streams. Well, they had one income stream to get there, and then they diversified to preserve and create and grow wealth, right? So my recommendation for anybody that new, getting started, ambitious, momentum, wherever you're at in your business, is number one, what gets measured gets managed, right? So if you don't measure and track certain things, you're never going to be able to make calculated decisions as to what to remove and what to double down on. But more specifically is that if you want to dominate, become the master of one thing. That's it, right? If you start to become kind of proficient with channeling your energy and your efforts and attention into one linear space, you will blow that up. But too many people are distracted trying to be very mediocre at a lot of things instead of becoming the guy or girl for one thing. And once you become that, your time, your skill set becomes invaluable to the point where you write your own checks, you write your own price points because you're the one. And that's where, I think it really helped me kind of channel my energy and my focus, because it's, we're all over the place with all these ideas, that I knew that if I just hone it in and do one thing, I'll blow it up. And I did. And that's probably my biggest piece of advice to anybody right now, regardless of where you're at in your business.
Excellent advice. To piggyback off that, what I do is these ideas, and I'm going into year 15. I have whiteboards and I just throw them on the whiteboard and I keep the whiteboard for years, right? And
Same.
if I get right, exactly, if I get
Yep.
to it, I get to it. But I didn't. Fitness is where I started. I didn't diversify until the first decade. There
Yep.
was 10 years of smashing fitness, and then I was like, I'm going to get into some other things. So fantastic advice. Now, speaking of advice, you put out an incredible amount of advice for free. I know you don't hold back. And I think it would be a disjustice if you didn't plug everything that you pump content on. So where can we find you, Mike?
Yeah, man. I greatly appreciate that. And I take a lot of pride in my audience, and I genuinely do care. I reply to all of my comments on every single platform whenever I get them, and all my messages and DMs. And I deeply just want to see people win. And I care about, like you say, my tribe. So the most active platforms are, as you alluded to, which is always just going to be my name, which is YouTube, as well as Instagram. I'm now becoming a lot more hyperactive on TikTok, as well as some of these other platforms. But the easiest way to get in touch and probably to get the most value would be the Instagram and YouTube platforms. And I'm always happy to connect and answer any questions that anybody has about any of this stuff.
I'm going to put your links in show notes on all platforms that this is being broadcasted on, so everyone can find it super easy to find you. I would highly recommend you subscribe to his YouTube channel. And if you're on Instagram still, definitely check out Mike on Instagram. His content is different on each platform, and it's super educational. And here's the thing that I'll tell you, moving into year 15, I watch his real estate stuff, and I remove the word real estate agent and put whatever word in I decide is going to go into there, because it's all that applicable. It's just a matter of changing the title, I guess you will, and in this case. And definitely check him out. Highly endorsed. And dude, I just wanted to thank you for your time. I know you're trucking. I know you're trucking, because like I feel like I don't want to bother my friends, but in this case, people need to hear from you, man. And I'm grateful that you came on the show, bro. I wish you luck in San Diego. This show is going to come out probably over the course of the next month. And by then you'll have wrapped all that up and you'll be smashing through Q4. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here.
Likewise, brother. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you listening. And again, can't wait to see where we both take this.